Hey there, Sovereigns. Monica Grace from cardreadingqueen.com here. Today's content is going to be about the COVID-19 global pandemic, and specifically, we're going to talk about what does it mean through the lens of spirituality. Before I get started here, I just want to say that we are going to treat this with the respect that it deserves. We are going to talk about this from the standpoint of spirituality while not ignoring any of the realities of the situation, as there are, predicted to be, first of all, there are already lives that have been lost, and then there are predicted to be more lives lost, significantly more. Additionally, there are lots of economical consequences of this pandemic and the way that different countries are handling the pandemic. And so we want to just have some reality around that. And certainly we do not want to spiritual bypass any of that. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time. All right, so if you want to stay connected, we are on Facebook at facebook.com/cardreadingqueen, YouTube at cardreadingqueen.com/YouTube, Instagram at instagram.com/cardreadingqueen, Twitter at twitter.com/MonicaGraceCRQ, Pinterest at pinterest.com/cardreadingqueen, Tumblr at dailytwinsoul.tumblr.com, and LinkedIn at linkedin.com/company/cardreadingqueen. Additionally, you can find any freebies that we talk about in this content at cardreadingqueen.com/freebies. So there's a huge list there, and all you have to do is sign up for the ones that you are interested and excited in. So let's start with a very common question that I'm seeing in communities right now is, did we attract the pandemic? Now, this is a really interesting question from the law of attraction perspective. So, did we attract it? I would say that we did not necessarily attract it, because to say that we attracted it or that we manifested it implies a desire. As typically when we think about the law of attraction, we talk about how we are manifesting our greatest desires or manifesting things that we desire. And I don't think any of us desire a pandemic or desire the possibility of losing our jobs or the possibility of being quarantined or the possibility of losing our lives or losing our loved ones. So nobody is really trying to attract or manifest that. And I think that is, kind of it's almost an abusive way to think about it. And the reason is because it implies blame or karma, which is not really helpful to the situation. So typically people, they think that when something bad happens to them, that by law of attraction, they must be the person at fault, or that it must be karma for something they've done. And that is it's basically just abusive to yourself. So it doesn't really make sense to think about it that way. So what I would say instead, and I think this wording is important, is that we as humanity are in vibration with this pandemic at this particular moment. So it's not that we attracted it, it's just that we made a lot of choices that are now in vibration with it. And so this kind of points to a solution, which is to make new choices that are not in vibration with this. So, we can make new choices to fall out of this vibration. That is something that I truly believe. And I think that if you do not want the pandemic in our lives, this is something that you should shift your thinking around as well, because as we make new choices, we can fall out of vibration with it. So why does the virus target specific groups? And this is another question that I've seen in the spiritual community that has to do a lot with karma, and this idea that if this virus is targeting a specific group, that it is karmic. So some examples, so some countries are getting hit harder than others, and this is still playing out at the time of me creating this content, because a lot of countries haven't really seen the full effects of what are happening right now, or what is happening right now. So right now, as I record this, China is doing pretty well. They got the pandemic under control. It took them about 2 to 3 months, and we don't know if they'll see another outbreak, but for now, things are not quite back to normal, but they are out of the quarantine period. South Korea has also gotten this pandemic under control primarily through extensive testing. So they just did a great job at testing. They did a great job at isolating the cases. And so they were able to treat those cases quickly and stop the spread of it. And then Japan is also, they also seem to be doing well. And it's not completely clear what they are doing. They took a third strategy because they have not quarantined and they have also not done extensive testing. The strategy that we think that they took is just that culturally they are very religious about, or religious isn't the right word, but they are a culture that does a lot of hand washing, a lot of mask wearing already. So they were they just had better habits than most other countries that are facing this as a culture. So we'll learn more about those things, about some of the ways that different countries have been able to stave off their new cases of this. As I'm recording this, I live here in the United States, so the Western world has really gotten hit with this, and the cases are mounting at this point in my country and in many others, especially across Europe. So we are going to see how our countries respond to this and how we eventually get it under control. And I do believe that it will eventually come under control in every country, and we as humanity will find solutions to it. So I would say that it's not so much karma that's happening here. It's not like one country, has karma and that's why this is happening. I think what's happening is more that the pandemic is exposing both the weaknesses and the strengths of every country. So in China, we here in the US at least consider China a authoritarian government. So now if you're somewhere else in the world, perhaps you don't see it that way. But that authoritarianism was actually helpful to them in that they were able to socially isolate their people. And get their people to truly comply to their quarantines very quickly. And so that was helpful to them. Here in the US, we are just not, that's just not the case. We value our freedom. Unfortunately, that means that the self-quarantine efforts are not really working that well. So we're trying to do this physical distancing, which most people are calling it social distancing. I'm just calling it physical distancing because it's less isolating. That is not seeming to slow down the new cases at this point, or it is slowing it down. It's not slowing it down enough. We also did a terrible job at testing. We are a country that values the economy over individual lives, to be frank. Or at least, and again, these are just my impressions. And what I'm seeing, though, is that we are taking slow measures to protect the larger population because we are concerned about the economy and we're concerned about businesses closing. And all of those concerns are valid. It's not to say, that's also a big issue. So why create more issues to solve one issue? But that has been a problem in our country and in several other European countries that we are seeing this spread quickly. So I don't think it's a blame thing. I don't think it's a karma thing. I think it's just looking at, well, this is just exposing the strengths and weaknesses of each country. Also, here in the Western world, we've seen a gap in ages. So if you're an older member of society, and typically this means about 60 to 65 and up, then your chances of dying from this are much higher than those that are younger. And so here in the US, there's something that's been dubbed the boomer killer. And the idea there is that there's a shift in leadership, and because our current leadership is holding us back in areas that are related to Ascension. So specifically equality, the environment. So the younger generations are very concerned about saving the environment, even at an economic cost. Whereas the older generations here in the U.S., there are a lot of people who are in denial that there even is any environmental challenges, or that we even are, destroying the environment. And so those speculations are there. And again, what I have seen in the research is that actually it's not just a boomer killer, it's actually killing younger people as well, just not at the same rates. So it is more lethal to an older generation. But the other thing with that is that it's really just separation, to think like, oh, well, I'm younger, so I'll be safer during this pandemic. Because the reality is that it does this virus does cause pneumonia in many people, and some of that pneumonia can be treated at home, while some of that pneumonia needs to be treated in hospitals. And so as hospitals get overrun, it's going to affect people of all ages, right down to, children who are just being born today. So, you see, like, as hospitals get overwhelmed, then anybody who gets hurt, or anybody who gets sick, anybody who needs any sort of medical attention, they're not going to be able to get it because the hospitals are overwhelmed. And that includes people giving birth. It includes a number of different things. So that is something to think about. And this, if you're experiencing like, oh, good, this is going to target some specific area, please know that that is creating separation. And it really is that we're all in this together, from age 0, really age not even born yet, up until the oldest person in the world, as well as every single country. On the country level, even if your country is able to get COVID-19 under control, there's still issues with the economical impact that other countries are experiencing. So that's why China, for example, is starting to send out teams to help other countries get this pandemic under control, because they realize that it's going to continue to destroy their economy until the pandemic is over. So that is something that we all need to know. Same here in the US, there's a lot of blame being placed on other countries. There's a lot of blame being placed on the current leadership administration, so the president and his administration and Congress. And what we have to remember is that the economic impact of this was already beginning as China started to see their first cases. So, it's a thing where we really are all in this together, and until we can band together as humanity and really get this pandemic under control, we are each individually going to continue to see the effects of it in our country, even if our country's not hit hard by it, because the economic impact globally is so great. And then this last one, it could also just be a change in status quo to realign to Ascension. Yeah, I think that is certainly possible, but I think the thing to remember there is that even if it is, more of like a, what we would call a tower moment on the Ascension journey, even if this is, we have a lot of control over it, in the sense that we can continue to make new choices to get through it faster. So even if the pandemic is, that is like kind of a Ascension tool, I guess. And I'm going to talk about this even more later to kind of explain that. But even if it's a tool, we have the power to get through a tower moment faster by making choices. And also to a tower moment, we have the choice for how big or how small it has to be. So if we learn our lessons quickly, our spiritual lessons quickly, and to me, that means that if we unite as humanity, basically, if we unite as humanity and we make the changes that we need to make, then we will be able to get through this faster and with fewer casualties, I guess is the best way to say it. And I mean that not just human life, but also economic casualties. And then in addition to that, I do want to add that this pandemic is, again, it's not so much, it's basically exposing some of the cracks in our society. So it's affecting, at least here in the US, it's affecting poorer people. It's affecting the gig economy and the people who are working many jobs and just trying to get by. Certainly the homeless. Certainly it's going to affect, single moms with children. It's going to affect poorer children more. It's going to affect people without healthcare insurance. So here in the US, it is, it's again not, it's really just exposing the things that were not good to begin with, is kind of the best way to say it. So it's almost like it's exacerbating the problems that were already there and the problems that we as a society have chosen over years and years and decades of policy and just of our own inaction around that. So again, the pandemic, for the overall message, to me, the way to think about this pandemic is not that it's blame or karma or targeting specific people. It's really that it's showing us the reality and exposing the things that were already there, but that we were able to ignore because of just our insulation from it. So now this is going to affect everybody. And so now we have to become more aware of these problems. So how do I interpret this in terms of a higher power? So this is another question. And the gist of it is that if God is this great this great creator, higher power, then why is he unleashing, destruction on humans? Is kind of the best way to summarize that. And so you can replace God with, all sorts of other things like the universe, spirit source. So what I would say about this, again, is that if this is ascension and expansion, and if you want to think about it that way, then this is just a tool to expose what is already there. So it's not a tool to like wipe out people. It's really that we've made so many choices to be in vibration with this. And so now this tool is really exposing those choices to us and giving us a chance to correct those choices. And it's really us, we have the opportunity to either correct them quickly or we can correct them very slowly as well. And that is going to determine how much suffering we experience. Additionally, I wanted to say that as far as higher powers go, I do talk specifically about God, the universe, spirit source, but I just want to add Mother Nature into that higher power. So if you are, a scientist or, maybe you're not a spiritual person at all, think about how Mother Nature is, using a tool at her disposal, which is this pandemic, to show all of the ways that we are destroying her, all the ways we are destroying our planet, all the ways we are not taking care of our planet's tenants. So humans, animals, the oceans, or creatures that live in the ocean, just all sorts of stuff. The temperatures, the ozone layer, and the forest. I'm sorry, I just keep coming up with ideas, but how are we destroying Mother Nature and those are choices that we already made and that we have made over decades. And so this is a tool for Mother Nature to really expose that to us and give us a chance to correct those things. What are the positives of this pandemic? So lots of people want to say like, stay positive, like, let's focus on positive news. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great thing to stay positive. What I would add to that is that you want to stay positive and look for positive action that you can take. So just sitting by yourself and being positive about it, that can be spiritual bypassing and avoidance, which is actually fear-based. So I would say, look for the positive opportunities and also take positive action to do the healing work that it's going to take to heal our globe of this pandemic. And I want to be clear, I don't think a pandemic is a positive thing. I think it's not a good thing for us, whether you look at it spiritually or not. It's exposing a lot to us right now, and it's demanding that we heal those things, and it's demanding that we heal them faster than we had been wanting to. I know here in the US, the way our political system works is that we have conservatives and liberals. And so we kind of go back and forth, and like slowly our nation inches forward on policy, and typically is trying to catch up to the culture in many areas. And so this pandemic is really saying like, look, let's put this all on exposure. We need you to fix this faster. And so we're seeing a lot of that here in the US specifically. So some things that are positive that could come out of this in the Western world. And again, this is not to make light of the fact that people are going to die, and they are dying, and that is not good. That is a terrible thing, and that the economy is really in trouble, and that is going to also affect the nation and every nation in not a good way. Like this is going to cause suffering as a result. But some of the things that may be good. So one thing is union. Union is very important on any ascension journey. I often talk about twin souls and union between two people. This is going to be union on a larger scale. And so because this union is going to be global, this is going to be a good thing for all other areas where you want to have union. So if you want to have union with your money, for example, then this is going to help. It's going to help you heal. It's going to help everybody around you heal as well. So that raises the vibration, but it's also going to help you heal, because these wounds are, they're going to be amplified on whatever stage you give them, basically. So union is going to be the one thing, or one of the things. Equality. So I've already talked about specifically in the US, just that we forget the poor, the disabled, the gig workers. In our, we still deal with a lot of racism, homophobia, xenophobia, sexism, and gender inequality. So we're still dealing with a lot of that as well. And all of those things are going to be shifted as a result. And then we have healing. So we're experiencing a illusion shattering, basically. And that illusion is it's a threat of control. So it's all being broken through right now. All of us are experiencing a ton of having to release control over what's happening. So this is, and of course, this is just going to cascade down through all areas of our lives, where we realize, I think at a global level, we've realized like, wow, our structures, these structures that we put in place to feel safe and secure and in control of things, they are shattering right now. So this is causing a global trauma, and also a global opportunity for healing. And so as we heal that on a global level, that will heal a lot of control issues in all other areas. So if you're trying to control money, if you're trying to control your relationship, if you're trying to control really anything else, whatever you're trying to control right now, you are going to have to release and surrender some of that. And so, and you know, if you're familiar with my work, I talk about 6 core wounds. And so I'm going to do several videos actually about how to heal those 6 core wounds through the lens of a system or society. And that I think will kind of bring more light to this healing that needs to happen. All right. So last question, when will the pandemic end? From a spiritual perspective, so I have no idea in terms of time. Okay, I just want to make that clear. We don't know. There's a lot of information out there. I won't get into that because it's not really relevant to this content. I'm talking about when will it end from a spiritual perspective. So basically, we have made a lot of choices that have put us in alignment with this pandemic. So we have chosen things that the things we've chosen have created vibration, and that vibration is currently the same as this pandemic. Basically, like we are vibrating at the same frequency as the pandemic, and that's why we have it. So when will it end? Basically, we individually and collectively have to make a new choice every single day. We have to make and we have to figure out what those choices are. I think that the pandemic is going to expose that for each country. But we have to make new choices. And then in addition to making those new choices, we also have to take positive action on those choices every single day. And so, you know, my conclusion from all of this and my belief from a spiritual perspective is that it's perfectly safe to put energy into how can we manifest away this pandemic. And it really comes down to releasing the vibration of the pandemic, which we're going to do through finding positive solutions to it. So to me, it's very safe to focus on the pandemic right now. To me, it's spiritual bypassing to pretend like, la, 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 there's no pandemic. Like, to me, that is insane. That's like an insane amount of spiritual bypassing. And I don't think that that's a good solution. You're really like kind of ignoring the lessons of the pandemic, and you're ignoring the opportunity to change your own vibration, and to affect positive change in the vibrations of people around you. So to me, put your energy on the pandemic, because it's here. Like you can't ignore it. And it's actually very crazy from a spiritual perspective to have something in your reality that is so strong and to be completely like ignoring it. That's pretty crazy. So definitely put your energy and attention on it, and look for ways that you personally can use your talents and gifts to affect positive change for the pandemic. So one example that I've seen is that a number of people who already have the skill set of sewing and already have the materials are sewing masks for various hospitals that have requested them. That's an example of doing something positive, and doing something positive and healing for the pandemic. Other people are doing training online. People are doing all sorts of things. And so, to me, you have to be willing to look at the pandemic, which for healing purposes is the wound. You have to be willing to go there with the wound, go deep into the wound, and then come out of it with the healing that you can offer to it, and to yourself and to everybody around you. And so that would be my message, and the thing I would urge you to do is look for ways that you can contribute positively to the healing of this. So next steps, the first thing I would recommend is just to reflect on this topic. Certainly decide what's true for you. I have one perspective only, and this is a big topic. We need multiple voices here, and I'm very open to your ideas as well. If you have a different way of thinking about things, I'm certainly open to that. But you want to reflect on this topic, decide what's true for you. You've always got to trust your intuition above anything else. And then also decide what's true for your country and how your country is handling the the pandemic. Make sure that you're feeling in alignment with all of those things, because any positive healing, of course, is going to need to come from within. It can't come from somebody on the internet made a video and told me to do this. So obviously, I think everybody here knows that, but definitely trust your intuition above anything. If you are interested in breaking down some of the healing in a very systematic way, as I said, I'm going to do another video about control and safety and how we can feel safe in this pandemic by healing that wounding around control. So if you are interested in that, check out my core wound wheel work at cargreenqueen.com/freebies. And a number of my videos and content and podcasts and everything, a number of those are going to be focused on this core wound wheel in the coming weeks. And that's because right now we really need to have an understanding of the healing that we are being called to do. So that's where I'm going to kind of focus. And if you are here for twin soul work or for ascension work, just know that it is all contributing to that. So as we heal these wounds at the societal level, that trickles down into our relationships as well. And then finally, leave a comment on this posting. You can share your upset, your story, or your results that you're experiencing. So that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day.